Welcome back, everyone, to Action Reaction with me, Zane Simon. I know we've been gone for a week or two now. I think just a week. I don't know. Either way, I'm still joined by my wonderful, magnificent, unimitable. Is it unimitable or inimitable?
I don't know. That's your call, smart boy.
Whatever. Troy O'Diamonds. And we are here. We are back again to talk about action movies, our favorite, most intellectually challenging, unusual, creative, and basic bitch-ass action movies that we can think of.
Yeah, and I'd like to apologize to our listeners for that week we missed. I had to spend some time recovering from grievous fireworks accidents that mainly stayed below the shoulders.
That does sound like you. That does sound like you. But you at the same time, I'm sure you had an exceptionally happy Fourth. Those parts of it that you can remember.
Yeah, it was really great, and the injuries weren't to myself, and I have been accused of a crime that I did not commit as badly as they're saying I did.
And for once, it's not drugs related.
Well, yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, you may have been on drugs at the time, but
it was drugs adjacent.
Drugs adjacent. There we go. Do you? I have to ask though, because I just watched it a week ago. Do you have a hum in the drum?
A what now?
A hum in the drum?
No.
No, you haven't. Okay, you haven't seen Baby Driver yet.
Oh, no, I'm getting it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got a bit of a hum in the drum. Got my headphones in right now, and we're ready to drive.
There you go. Jesus, had to spell that out for you.
You really did. I dropped the ball on that. I've just been really caught up with getting our new sponsor for this episode called Troy's Bail Fund.
We are not. No. We are not doing Troy's Bail Fund this week. In fact, I have another sponsor lined up for us.
Are they contributing to Troy's Bail Fund? This show is not lasting much longer.
I think everything contributes to Troy's Bail Fund, as far as I can tell.
All right, then I am in to sell whoever this is.
Hello, shoppers. It's me, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Call me old-fashioned, but when my robot starts to squeak like an old screen door, well, that's when I reach for a can of Mom's old-fashioned robot oil.
I am all down for oiled up moms.
And remember, Mom's oil is made with 10% more love than the next leading brand.
Yeah, it's about to be 11%. I don't even know what that means.
Mom Love and Screen Door are registered trademarks of Mom Corp.
All right, I am in. Let's make some stuff slippery and weird.
Okay, yeah, well, okay. You know, just because we're brought to you this week by Mom's Old Fashioned Robot Oil, and because I can only do a very terrible, terrible imitation of a woman, we probably aren't going to get that much money out of this sponsor. But it really has nothing to do with oiling moms.
Okay, fine. As long as we get enough money for a can of sardines, and I'm down for it.
Mm-hmm. Can of sardines, maybe enough to bail you out on one of your numerous nudity charges.
Again, did not commit to the extent that I have been accused of.
Yeah, that's not quite the denial that I think will help you in court.
Well, I probably shouldn't be talking about this on air.
Seriously, Judge, I had a sock over it. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're not technically flashing people if there's a sock there.
And I do want to say, I spent most of the time that people saw me at least covered by shrubbery.
Yeah. You gotta ask though, what was the pattern of the sock? Was it a nice argyle? I mean, I know you're a sock guy, so.
I started off with the pink argyle, but that was a little bit too broy. So I switched to a straight up red, white, and blue stripe pattern.
Oh, well, that's very festive of you for our nation's birthday.
Yeah, and then eventually I ditched that and just went boat shoes and body oil.
See, that's exact. This is why your defense is not being helped at all here. I tried.
There's a reasonable argument that my body hair constitutes clothing. And we will make it in court. And no, there isn't precedent for that working, but there's also no precedent for it not working. And my lawyer, who is me, is very convinced that we can make this case.
You know, I think if you shaved your body hair and wove it into clothing, then I bet you could make the case that because your body hair could be used to create clothing, then it must already be clothing when it's on you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that quite frankly, they're incredibly prudish for not accepting this outright.
Yeah, I agree. All right, on that note, let's talk about some movies.
Yeah, let's talk about movies.
So this week's theme, what is it?
This week we are talking about the spoils of war. War always comes with winners, losers, and takers, and other things. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta admit, this was not a friendly topic for me. Not because I have some sort of terrible PTSD related flashbacks from playing too many hours of
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, yeah. Not because of any kind of Call of Duty related flashback addiction.
Okay, good, because I really didn't want to infringe on your gamer's rights.
Yeah, no, I mean, every now and then a firework goes off and I think suddenly I'm imagining some kid saying he's fucking my mom, but overall, I think I deal with it pretty well.
Okay. So you're a high functioning veteran of the CODs.
Exactly. No, instead, this gave me a lot of trouble because I'm just not that into war movies. I try to watch a lot of war movies and go out there, feel them. I've seen Saving Private Ryan. I do love Apocalypse Now a lot. And I'll probably end up seeing Dunkirk, even though I don't give a damn about Christopher Nolan at all.
But you got to.
A few out there, but in general, most of them just don't really ring my bell. So I took it the theme a little differently this week, just a little, to something a little off the beaten warpath, as it were.
Okay.
But first and foremost, I feel like we got to get to your movie because it's always more of a crowd pleaser, always more of a fan favorite. You speak for the masses.
And you know what? I almost took this in a direction that didn't, but would have been infinitely more punishing for you. But I decided not to do, I forget what year, the Nick Cage vehicle, Lord of War. Because, I'm nice. This show is about us having fun together. And instead,
not about that.
I think it is. So instead of that punishing experience, I went for, I think, the best war movie. I don't know, since Starship Troopers, 1999's Three Kings. Have you seen Three Kings, Zane?
I have seen Three Kings once or twice when I was like 12, and I remember nothing of it except George Clooney's face. Oh, and is
Okay.
Ice T in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
No, Ice
it's
Cube.
Ice Cube. Yeah.
Ice Cube, the other one. The one that wasn't actually a pimp.
Yeah. And I'm surprised and really happy to unveil something that we've talked about before, but has apparently escaped your memory. This movie starts off with a very confused Mark Wahlberg.
Ah, of course. Of
Yeah.
course. What is one of your favorite movies that does not include Mark Wahlberg looking totally at sea?
Oh, it's so great. It's so great. And it's uh since we talked about I Heart Huckabees before, this is the first David O. Russell movie with Mark Wahlberg. This is where we discovered confused Mark Wahlberg face.
Oh man, it has made a lot of appearances since then.
Oh,
It's
it's
like
fantastic.
it's like the seed of a tree that blossoms into a whole confused forest.
That eventually kills people in an M. Night Shyamalan movie with a confused Mark Wahlberg in it.
Oh God,
Oh yeah, the happening. It
it
happening.
definitely happened.
Yeah. So you have a confused Mark Wahlberg somewhere in Iraq. Just it's like, are we shooting? Do we? And then just like shoots a guy. That's it. Then like him and his whole group of troops go back to their base, and it's like just a party. This is set after Operation Desert Storm. This is a '90s movie, and
Back when Desert Storm was like our current referential war meme, like doesn't it seem so kind now? Like,
this we'll get there.
okay, I'm just saying. Every time now I think of Desert Storm, and I know terrible things happen. This is not me trying to downplay the horrors of war, like my stupid Call of Duty PTSD reference.
Look at you backing away from stealing valor. Like you should own it.
And still,
Bane is wearing multiple Purple Hearts right now.
that's right. No, I've got my self-made bottle cap medals for walking my dog and drinking this beer, and
He's got the full like Sheriff David Clark thing going on.
yeah, you can't see it, but it's on. But Desert Storm really does feel like since then it's just like we've had every other thing we've been involved with just seems dirtier and stupider, and everything before it seems dirtier and way infinitely worse. And Desert Storm is just kind of like, oh, wasn't that a fun thing that we did?
Yeah, I mean, Desert Storm was basically jerking off before you go to a dinner. You get in, you get out, you have some fun, and then you're on.
That is, you know what? That doesn't really. That metaphor does not stand for me at all. This is one of those moments where you presented me with a picture of your life that I suddenly am like, wow, I don't relate to everything you do.
Oh, huh. All right. Well, you're the weirdo here. Anyways, so these guys get back to base, and the mission's pretty much fucking done. So they're just like lifting weights and partying and singing and drinking and like cheering their good army stuff. And George Clooney's like fucking a journalist in a tent. And, yeah, it's nice.
That's a very George Clooney thing to do.
Very George Clooney move. And so there's like, they're just having a good time. That's great. So next thing we know, there's U.S. troops like taking in the surrendering Iraqi army people. And it's Wahlberg and this like aggro Southern boy played by Spike Jonze. And they find a guy with a document like halfway up his ass. So that's probably interesting. I mean, what things don't get made more interesting by halfway up your ass?
Yeah, I was gonna say that feels like that must have been your entry point to the movie on the initial viewing. Like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, who among us?
Who among us?
So they keep this thing secret from their office or whatever, and take it to Staff Sergeant Ice Cube, who thinks it's a map to like just some random stuff that the army took.
I gotta take a half second here to say this is probably that point in where like Ice Cube in movies was still this novel thing. You're like, oh, he's a better actor than I expected. He actually is like fine in movies. And then the whole rest of his film career has just been a reminder that he never got past that being fine in movies. Like,
Yeah.
I can't think of a movie where I'm like, oh yeah, no, that masterful Ice Cube performance, you know?
Triple X State of the Union.
Okay, well, now, oh God, no. See, I shouldn't even tell you that I have never seen that because you're gonna make me fucking watch it.
Oh, you should. It's good.
Oh God. Okay. Anyway, they take the document that was up a man's ass to Ice Cube.
Halfway up a man's ass. But yeah, to Ice Cube.
Okay.
And
thanks for the clarification.
And George Clooney finds out, and he's like, "Nope, this isn't a map to some, random stuff they stole from Kuwaitis. This is straight up gold. This is Kuwaiti gold bullion. And since this is Saddam's gold bullion after he plundered it, I don't mind stealing it from Saddam." So now these four guys, their plan is stealing this very recently Kuwaiti gold from Saddam Hussein. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with stealing stuff from Saddam Hussein. That I have no bad things to say about that idea. It seems like if he were still alive and if we hadn't, had him executed, then that would be a good idea.
I mean, there's probably a way that we could still steal stuff from him, depending on how much Mom's Oil pays for things that we'll do once the bail fund is covered.
I bet he's got some illegitimate kids we could steal from.
Yeah, probably.
I bet that seems like the better way to go there.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot. So, anyways, George Clooney's driving the fucking Humvee with Ice Cube, Wahlberg, aggro racist Spike Jonze. Which, by the way, I skipped over something really important here about Mark Wahlberg's performance. His delivery is incredibly smooth and natural on all of his lines with the word towel head.
It's like he's been saying it all his life.
It just rolls off the tongue for him. I don't know why. I feel like he really committed himself to this role.
On the other side, Mark Wahlberg is the really mediocre rapper turned actor where you're like, oh yeah, he's surprisingly fine and stuff. And then he went on to like be really good in a whole bunch of things where you're like, wow, actually Mark Wahlberg's a really decent actor and I enjoy seeing him in movies.
Yeah, as long as you make him befuddled.
Yeah, as long as he's befuddled. He nails befuddled like no man has ever been befuddled before.
Yeah. So these fucking idiots are like in the back of the Humvee throwing like Nerf footballs and skeet shooting them. It's great. They're just having some dumb fun. And a cow blows up. Just because things blow up in Iraq. So they get to the town with the stuff and they like raid it and they're all confused. Nobody knows what's going on. And like the people think they're safe because, hey, the U.S. Army's here and they won. So now we're safe. And it's just these goofs bumbling around. Be like, no, I don't care about you or freedom or anything. We're trying to find things. And so they get through like a bunch of like basically decades old electronics and some other bullshit. And then leave because they couldn't find the stuff and things were escalating. So they get out of there with a crowd of people begging for food and medicine and protection from Saddam's loyalists. But nope.
Yeah, they're not there for that. I mean, this is a tip. So far, you've basically just described prototypical U.S. foreign strategy in war to just come in and be like, no, yeah, we're totally going to help and we'll protect you and all that. No, look, we got our funding cut and we're all supposed to pull out. No, I guess all the bad guys are coming back, so.
Oh, if you think that's where this ends, buckle up, motherfucker. So they go back into this town, take two, because George Clooney noticed the army wasn't stopping them. The loyalists weren't stopping them from going to the place they went. And the thing they were guarding is probably where the stuff is. And they say, yeah, no, we're going to go back in. We're going to look in there. And the Iraqi army won't fuck with us because we're the U.S. Army and we won't do anything. And it's the truth. And he's right. So they get down into like the location with the real shit, and it's a bunch of fucking luggage with jewelry and watches. And then they find the bouillon. There's actually just a shitload of gold. And the Iraqi army guys agree to help move it. They're like, yeah, okay, you found it. All right. That's your thing. Get out of here. Don't interfere with anything else we're gonna do.
Brief note, because it's you, and
Right.
my expectations for you are very specific. Every time you actually say the word bouillon, I think you're just going to say booyah. Every single time I hear your voice say boo, and I think it's got to be booyah.
That's fair. And I thought you were going to go the direction this movie went and assume that I was confused, thinking that it was something about making soup.
No.
Okay.
I do like to know, though, that it's the language the movie used and that you didn't get there on your own.
Look, we've talked about this before. We learn how to interact with the world through films.
It's true.
What else is on us? So, long story short, they load up all the stuff. And then when things are tense, but like, yeah, you can move, the Iraqi army just like executes a woman in front of her kid and her husband and everyone. Just like, cuz. And that was the sort of the deal. Is like, we moved the gold and helped you. You ignore when we do these things. But Clooney, for like the first time anybody in this movie finds what's should be morality, and he tries to do something about it and just catches a round in the arm, and then they just pile some civilians in the Humvee with them. And the army's unstoked. The Iraqi army's unstoked. So they're just like shooting tear gas out of mortars at them. And everybody gets run off the road, and they're split up, and they're in a goddamn minefield. It's not great. Everybody gets taken into a shelter by a group of rebels, except for Marky fucking Mark. He gets taken captive. Yeah.
Yeah, of course Marky Mark gets taken captive.
Right, because again, we want him to be in a very unfamiliar setting. That's what we cast him for.
Yeah. If things were going to get like more mysterious and more difficult to cope with, Marky Mark is the man to be placed in that position.
Yeah, and that position is being mostly interrogated and a little bit tortured by Saeed Tagmui, making a return for this show. And I'm pretty sure he's also just named Captain Saeed. They're like, fine. Your name's right.
Just use your own name. I always like when movies do that. They're like, yeah, we didn't. Just let yourself be called whatever your name is.
Yeah. And I feel like they almost did that to him in Wonder Woman. And then we're like, you've done this enough that it'll be a little sketchy. But it's not like just an interrogation short. Like, they have some serious conversation with each other, even though Wahlberg's tied up with electricity into his face. And Saeed tells his personal story about when his wife was crushed by concrete, and his 1-year-old son died in the crib during a bombing. And Wahlberg says, like, if that happened to his family, it would feel worse than death. And they do have a legitimate sort of bonding moment there of like, yeah, you understand the pain that I've felt. So he goes on, he talks about like how he got into Saddam's army, how he basically ended up stuck in the army, and asks what the point of all this is. And confused old Wahlberg is just like, it's about stability. We're stabilizing the region. That's all he can say, and then they electrocute him. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, at that point, like, that is the line. That is the U.S. foreign policy line, and if somebody deserves to be electrocuted for it, it's probably Mark Wahlberg.
Look, if I feel like most people who would just parrot that line, I'm not saying they deserve to be electrocuted, but I am saying they deserve to be electrocuted.
Oh, wait. Point of order, though.
Yep.
Because I have those now. Point of order. It would actually be electrified, not electrocuted, because you have to die to be electrocuted.
Oh, fuck off.
Hey. Technically correct is the best kind of correct.
Are you going to come at me with if I say something was poisonous when it's venomous next time? Eat shit, Zane.
No. Hey, I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast, sir.
Is that from a movie?
Yeah, it's from Ferris. Never mind. Okay, whatever.
It's not. It's from no. Happy Gilmore. You can't
Happy
even get
Gilmore,
that.
that's right.
Oh,
Happy
fuck
Gilmore.
Ferris Bueller. Anyways, so anyways,
I know,
the crew with the civilian rebels are still trying to get out with the gold somehow, and these civilians know that the army's leaving, and that like the rich people in Kuwait are going to be safe, but the insurgents are going to get that fucking H.W. Bush said to rise up and they'd be supported. They're just going to get fucking left to be slaughtered, and they recognize that. And so their reality is if they don't get to a refugee camp on the border with Iran, then HW is leaving them. And they're getting bulleted. They're getting shot with bullets or gas, whatever.
They're getting bulleted. They're getting shot with bullets. Yes, thank you for the.
I wanted to define the word. I wasn't sure if anyone would pick up on it.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
no.
yeah, Clooney agrees to a deal where he gets to keep a good amount of the gold, like enough of the gold for this to be worthy, in exchange for getting them to the border and the refugee camp if they also help save Marky Mark, which, okay.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know. But so they like buy some cars from defected Iraqi military that are disguised as Saddam's cars, so any like loyalist will think it's him and be terrified of it. And that mostly works. Like they roll up on the base that Wahlberg's at, and like there's some rocket launchers and some helicopter machine guns, but like you don't feel good about it. Like it's not good helicopter machine guns and rocket launchers. But Clooney saves Wahlberg, and Marky Mark has a gun on Saeed and like just lets him go because he's had enough. You don't. It's fine. They go outside, and like even more refugees are freed out of this base. And Wahlberg is just like super committed to getting them to safety. Like he can't say no to them. And then he gets shot, and so does his southern racist friend. But the southern racist friend dies.
Spike Jonze does.
Spike Jonze, yeah. So we're getting to the end here. Clooney buries their share of the gold somewhere where he'll be able to find it, and gets some army trucks called in, and then also a journalist who was supposed to be tailing him the whole time, but he kept leaving behind with a surprisingly well cast Jamie Kennedy, who first time and last time you're ever going to hear surprisingly well cast Jamie Kennedy.
No kidding.
Yeah, and he's telling her, here's the story. Come cover this. Refugees are crossing the border. They get to the border checkpoint, and Clooney and the crew of American soldiers who basically went AWOL on this are going to just walk them through the border and get them there. And they're basically like the shield so that the Iraqi military and loyalists don't open fire or fuck with them. And that is when the rest of the army shows up. U.S. choppers land and stop them. They arrest the U.S. guys because it's a violation of American policy and they're AWOL. And the Iraqi army just rounds all these people up, puts them in a pen, and the U.S. is going to let them fucking die. That's the plan. That's the policy.
That does sound like us.
Yeah, right on camera with the journalist there. And George Clooney turns to a general and says, I know where the gold is. We got it. Get these people through, and you'll still get another star on your uniform for recovering this. And they do, and that's the movie.
See, that's the thing about Three Kings. Is it's really like a lighthearted romp, right? I mean...
Yeah, it's Mark Wahlberg doing goofy faces.
but it's also kind of a weird, like, commentary downer.
I'm. You think David O. Russell was trying to say something with this movie?
Just maybe a little something.
I don't know. There might have been a message.
But
Yeah.
it was mostly lost by Mark Wahlberg's confusion.
Yeah, he really stole the show. Jamie Kennedy being a beleaguered doofus is the right thing, and George Clooney is very handsome. And there might be layers of this movie beyond that, but if there are, then I don't know.
We haven't noticed them.
Nope.
Well, that's your prerogative, man.
Yeah, so those are the spoils of war.
All right. Well, on the flip side, I had trouble with this because it's hard to find. Most of the war movies, if I do like them, like things like Starship Troopers, can't like pitch you Starship Troopers. What the hell would I need to do that for?
Yeah, what kind of pitch does that need? It's great.
Yeah. So instead, I had to go with Mafia Warfare.
Okay.
And with 2006's Election 2, also known as Triad Election, by Hong Kong director Johnny To.
Oh man, there's a lot of good things going on in those titles. You're coming into my territory, time-wise.
I mean, it's got subtitles. So
fuck.
Yeah, it's it's in Chinese. It's from Hong Kong, but it's I will say this, having just rewatched it, it's barely an action movie. I'm gonna be fair.
My God.
Mostly a crime thriller.
You set up something great and then just cut the knees out from under it. So
it has like one really good action scene, and then a lot of fun, like brutal crime stuff.
Okay.
There's a lot of violence. It's just not necessarily action based, but fuck, this spoils of war thing, it threw me, All
right.
I'm not gonna lie. So the movie is about these two figures. It's about this godfather of this crime family named Locke. I'm going to assume, or Lok or something, L-O-K. It's in Chinese. I don't know how they would pronounce it. I'm not going to pretend that I know. Locke, he's the godfather of this crime family, and every 2 years they elect a new godfather.
All right.
And his 2 years are coming up, and they're about to have a new election, and it turns out that he doesn't want to let go of power.
I was gonna say this is surprisingly democratic, and I'm a little impressed that nobody's tried to extend the term limit while they're in office. I don't know.
And so the only other people that really want to be elected that are front runners are this guy Kun, who is the angry psychopath.
All right.
And this guy Johnny, who is the straightforward businessman who actually doesn't want to be elected. He's the guy that everybody's like, oh, if he ran, he would be automatically elected the next godfather. And he wants to be a straightforward businessman. The movie opens with him pitching this new, like, luxury business park he's going to build, and a highway he's going to finance, and this big house he's going to build on a hill. And everybody's like, okay, as long as you've cut your ties from organized crime, we are all in on this project with you. And I don't know if it's...
What were the names of this movie again? I'm trying to track this.
It's Election. You can Triad Election is the name of the movie. Or the names in the movie.
Got it.
Which are you trying to figure out?
I was trying to figure out... I thought there was something about characters in there, but never mind. I'm just going to struggle to keep these straight.
Jimmy, his name
all right,
Jimmy, is our star. He is the person that the plot revolves around. And Locke is the old boss.
Got it.
And nothing else really matters. Other than those two. because Locke says, I don't want to let go of power. He gets the psycho guy Kun to help him consolidate power. And Jimmy on the other side, what ends up happening to him is, I don't know if it's fortuitously or if it's he was set up, but he was buying off permits to get his business park built.
All right.
And at the same time, one of his gangster friends was involved in a payoff. And they're like, he's meeting at a restaurant with this civic guy, and he's buying permits. And one of his gangster friends is there being watched by the cops while he's doing some deal and getting a bunch of money. And he decides, like, oh, I got to warn my friend, the cops are here. And in trying to pass a note to him and to warn him the cops are here, the cops see it and they arrest him too. So Jimmy gets arrested.
Oh, man.
And he is suddenly, his business partners are like, hey, as long as you're clean and not involved in crime anymore, all good. And then he gets arrested. And so that puts him on shaky ground. And his mob boss friends, they're like, oh, well, you know why we got arrested and we got busted and the cops were there at all? Was that bodyguard you hired? And he sold us out.
Oh.
And so they tell Jimmy, they're like, if you want to be in good with us, if you want to prove that you're loyal, you need to solve this and you need to get rid of this guy.
All right.
At the same time, after being arrested, the mainland China, because he was trying to do business in mainland China, because they're from Hong Kong. You know, Hong Kong's an island, and it's sort of this separate thing that is sort of separate, but not really separate, but kind of separate.
Yeah, there's the fun gambling part.
Exactly. And so he was trying to do business in mainland China. He gets arrested, and the Chinese government is like, well, you can come here as a tourist, but you can't do business here anymore. Now, you could do business if you were the godfather of this crime family, then we might be willing to let you do business here again. But it's just some low-level mobster causing trouble. We're not going to let that happen.
Interesting. Not the way I would have thought it would have gone.
So this dude, Jimmy, who doesn't want to be a gangster, he doesn't want to be involved in crime anymore, suddenly it's like, you can't do the business you want to do unless you take over this crime family.
All right.
And the crime family is like, you can't take over unless you kill this hitman that you're this bodyguard you brought on.
Sure.
And so Jimmy just unquestionably goes out and has him drowned in a river. Like, just takes him for a boat ride late at night, like, oh, we're doing a deal. And then they get to the location, and some guys grab him, duct tape him up, stuff him in a bag, and throw him in the river. Done.
That's unceremonious. And also,
yeah, it really is.
I feel like they could have done that a little bit more harshly. That seems like he got off pretty light.
Well, but we don't even know if the guy was an informant. That's the thing. We don't actually know that this guy, this bodyguard, was an informant. Jimmy's just told he's an informant, and he kills him. He's trying to make nice.
I don't know. It seems like a weird spot to find moderation in punishment.
Well, I mean, drowning is not, I don't know. Is that like...
I don't know. What, isn't it like the Greek myth that, like, you put in a cat and a snake in the bag or some shit?
Okay, no. They're not Greek, first of all. I thought I made this clear from the beginning.
Yeah, and I said it was a myth, and I think that we can take great lessons from the parables of our forebears.
But they're not Greek, so they're not their forebears.
Yeah, but they traded with them, and they probably told stories.
Hong Kong didn't trade with the ancient Greeks. There wasn't like a junk ship out in front of Athens.
I don't know. We'll have to check history.
Yeah, just generally history. Let's go find some history and check it.
Yeah, I'm just going to go to the library and say, give me history, please.
Give me history, please. I'd like to figure out when Hong Kong started trading with Greece.
Yeah.
Anyway, in the meantime, so while after he's killed his bodyguard, the Godfather Locke has gone. He goes to the crazy one of the crazy gang members that's also vying to be Godfather, and he says, "Look, if we don't do something, if we don't team up, Jimmy will be Godfather. He will get elected. So we
Right.
have to work together to stop him and do whatever's necessary." And so they immediately go and they kidnap Jimmy's financier. And it's this great scene in the movie because they all have like these different like Halloween masks on. All these gangsters, and it's like a monkey and a clown and like some other weird stuff. And like right as they're about to go, they've got the financial backer for Jimmy's business park on the floor tied up. And right as they're about to go on to the next part of the job, one of them gets a phone call from his girlfriend. Okay, so one of them gets this call from his girlfriend, and she's like, "No, if you don't come home right now, I'm leaving you." In the middle of this kidnapping job where they've got his financier all tied up, and he said, he's like, "Okay, I'll leave. I'll come home right away." And the main guy, Loke, turns around, is like, "You leave right now, you're done. That's it." And so what they do is they take the guy and they put him in a coffin with the financier guy and drill a bunch of holes in it to keep them so he can watch the financier and keep them both captive. Like they're holding him hostage in a coffin with one of the other, with one of the gangsters locked in the coffin with him.
I mean, you got to keep a close eye on that.
Exactly. An absurdly close eye, really.
A very close eye.
So at this point, Jimmy, our hero, fears, and this is the fucked up, I call him our hero because he's really set up in the movie to be our hero at this point. This is when he figures out that there's like a real full-scale gang war going on. Because they tell him, they're like, either you step down and you don't try to stand for election, or we'll kill your financial backer who's going to help you pay for this business park.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, you've already kidnapped the dude. He's never going to do business with me again because he knows by doing business with me again, he'll stand the risk of getting kidnapped." Like, that deal is
basic logic.
Yeah, like you've already fucked this terribly. So I'm not about to back down. And what he decides to do, because he can't just kill off the godfather of their organization, that would be wrong.
Yeah, that would be wrong.
Yeah, that would be wrong. Is instead, he's some extremely fucked up shit. Just way off the deep end to the point that you're like, wait, this is our hero? So what he does is he kidnaps 3 low-level bodyguards of the Godfather, and he chains them to dogs.
Sure.
And keeps them locked up in these little cells. Because early on, when he thought he might have to get involved in this whole thing, this whole gang war, he went and hired a psycho killer, basically, who would do the dirtiest jobs that he needed, if needed. And this ends up being the exceptionally dirty job that needs doing.
Okay, so we got Mike Rowe up in this motherfucker.
Yeah, a very, very dirty job. That's right. And so they kidnap these 3 bodyguards, these 3 low-level bodyguards of the Godfather, and they want to convince them to assassinate the Godfather so that he won't be connected. It'll be his own people that had him killed.
Sure, yeah.
And they can't convince them, obviously, because they're super loyal. I mean, he's like the crime boss, and they're his bodyguards. So they chain him to dogs and lock him in these cells. And they pull him out, and the dogs are hungry and all that, obviously.
Right.
And they pull the guys out and they offer him money to do this hit. And if they don't, they take one guy out and they offer him money and he says no. And they take a sledgehammer and they smash his hands and they put him back in the cell
Oh boy.
so that the dog can start getting a taste of his blood.
Sure. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how dogs work.
Well, they're hungry.
Yeah.
And then they pull him out again and he still says no. So they take the hammer and they basically just start beating him to death with it.
What? How is he gonna kill him with his smashed up hands?
Well, this is the thing, is that there are 3 of them. So they're just doing this to one guy while the other ones watch.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like after the first thing, you knew that guy wasn't in the running anymore.
Yeah, but and nobody else agrees. Like, it's not working. Nobody else is agreeing to, like, go kill him now.
Yeah.
And they're hitting the guy with the hammer. And finally Johnny's like, you know what? This shit is not working at all. We have not instilled the proper amount of, like, respect and fear and, like, convincing these people to do this. So he takes out a butcher knife and he hacks the guy up and grinds him into dog food and he feeds it to the other guy's dogs.
Okay, so they're safe from their dogs for a little bit.
Yeah, and then he pulls them out and he's like, hey, do you guys want to pull a hit on your boss? And at that point, they're pretty much like, yeah, you know what? I'll do that. That works for me.
Yeah.
I've been reasonably convinced that. And while he's doing this, though, so he's hacking him up and he's grinding him into dog food. And the psycho killer guy he's with, they're in the bathroom, he's washing up, he's got blood all over him. And the psycho killer guy is puking in the sink and he's like, you're going to have to pay me way more money for this.
I thought it was the psycho killer doing all of this the whole time.
No, the psycho killer he got the dog idea to, like, chain him up and hit him with hammers. But then it's Johnny, the businessman, who, like, realizes it's not working. And so he takes out a butcher knife and starts hacking the guys up and feeds them through a meat grinder. And that's when the other guy's like,
is this like an episode of South Park? Is our hero Cartman?
Maybe. He looks like David Bowie. In fact, I have a note in my notebook that calls him Dawei Bowie. That's exactly what he looks like.
Okay.
And yeah,
you're just creating too many things for me to process here. Now I'm just seeing him dancing around with a cod piece while he's hacking a guy to pieces and turning him into dog food and being like, that voodoo, you do.
Oh. Dance magic dance. Very, very dance magic dance. Yeah.
Oh God.
And funny enough, like, there's no David Bowie, but there are several, like, really weirdly sung American, like, folk or, like, rock songs, and, like, because they're, like, at bars and nightclubs a few times where there's singing going on, and it's all, like, really, really weird covers of American songs. Like, the first one is Louie Louie.
Okay.
And it's just like, but it's sung like this really slow, like, you don't even recognize what it is for a minute, and then you're like, is this Louie Louie?
All right, that sounds weird.
And then there's one that's, I can't remember what the middle one is, and it ends up, and the last one is House of the Rising Sun. You're just like, what the hell is this?
Weird.
And so,
is it just like the Iron and Wine cover of Such Great Heights?
Oh. So, yeah, eventually, obviously, the target we're going towards is that Jimmy here is going way off the deep end to become the Godfather.
Yeah, the hero.
Yeah, our hero. He's very much been set up as the, like, character you're supposed to relate to. And there's an awesome scene later when they go rescue his financier and the other mobster that's trapped in the coffin with him, and the crazy killer guy gets to knife fight a whole bunch of people.
Oh, cool.
Awesome. And then they lock it. He gets locked in the back of a truck with like 5 dudes, and you just see the back of the truck open later, like slow. It's like one of those automatic gates in the back that's like a big moving truck.
All right.
You see it open, and it's just him under a pile of dead bodies saying, "You gotta pay me more. You gotta pay me more. You gotta pay me more."
That's
And,
great. Okay,
yeah.
so how many times did the guy in the coffin with the other guy in the coffin, how long were they in that coffin for?
For like a day and a half.
They made out, right? Like, not on camera, but
There definitely is it's definitely a suggestion of a shared intimacy by the time it's opened, where like they're no longer interested in like he's no longer interested in like making sure that the guy is kept safe or anything like that. More of like a rest save us.
yeah, I mean, like, how long can you be face to face with somebody like that before you just be like, hey, we got to pass the time somehow?
I you know I I feel like that may not get you as far as you wanted to.
Look, I'm just saying they made out.
Okay, it was the mobster version of 7 Minutes in Heaven.
I wouldn't say 7 minutes in heaven, but more like, you're lonely and this could be the last face you see. Do you want to not do mouth stuff with it?
Oh God, I'm really never traveling anywhere with you ever on a plane, because if it starts going down, I'm gonna have to kiss you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And so finally, so yeah, I mean, it's very much like it's the spoils this gang war. Like it is a gang war in which, in the end, I mean, Jimmy's successful. Like he goes off the crazy deep end, but his plans work, and he gets to be Godfather,
And he gets to do business in China now?
and he gets to do business in China now. And
Oh,
at the end of it, he
selling
said,
dog food.
he's there at the election where he gets elected, and he's like, I know some of you don't like me, but my term's up in 2 years, so fuck all y'all. I'll play by the rules. Not a big deal.
Right.
And then he goes to the Chinese police, who are now willing to let him work there. And they're like, we're really glad that you're here. We're glad that you're Godfather. You can do business here. That's great. All that. Just one thing. Can you make sure that these elections don't happen anymore? Because
Oh,
we don't like the instability it causes.
that's reasonable.
Like, you're a safe guy. You're a good bet. So you and your family just be Godfather now.
Oh, buddy.
And he's just like, I didn't want this job in the fucking first place.
And then, like, just the Curb Your Enthusiasm music starts playing.
Exactly. Oh,
Oh, that sounds good.
it's a fun movie. It's the middle of there's a trilogy of them. It's the middle one of a trilogy. Each one
Okay.
centered around a different generation of triad elections. Like, the first one is the election before this election. The third one is the election after this election. But this
So he
movie,
doesn't stop the elections.
yeah, this movie is really good. It is my favorite of them, and you don't really need to see the others to watch it.
That's making me feel like it's basically The Purge.
That's right. It's the original Hong Kong version of The Purge.
Hong Kong Purge. All right. Well, I'm not happy about the subtitles still, but
You'll work with it. It's
Yeah,
got
well,
awesome. It's got really awesome music, like weirdness included. It's beautifully filmed. It's got amazing music, and it's one of those movies. It's like it's all kind of like low key and quiet, and just like smooth drama, and then just some brutal shit, and you're just like, what? Is that really where we're headed? And in a way, like I don't know if you've seen a lot of like the K thrillers, like
no,
like
sure.
Old Boy or like I oh I, what's it called? Not From Hell, but anyway, whatever. Oh,
I'm,
anyway,
I don't know. I did see Old Boy. I thought Josh Brolin was pretty good.
you son of a bitch. Oh,
Charlito Copley, pretty solid in his role. I know that he's gotten a lot of shit because he hasn't done much stuff great since District 9, but you know,
God damn you. God damn you. I Saw the Devil was the other one I was thinking of. But no. Okay, you haven't seen any K drama, K thrillers. But K thrillers are all like they're not just brutal. They're all super downers too, where they're just like and he's out for a vengeance that's taken him 5 years to achieve, and when he gets to the end, all he has is failure and nothing and sadness, and everybody he knows has been brutalized, and he's now a monster beyond repair. This isn't that. It sounds
okay.
a bit like it. It's not that.
Okay, good. Well, I feel like both of us were able to bring in movies where we had very clear, strong heroes with moral clarity.
Yeah, super strong, super moral clarity. Heroes that you can really emulate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's what war is all about, is about giving people heroes that they can look up to.
Yeah, absolutely. With very little difference in morality. There's a clear good guy, a clear bad guy, and the good guys definitely win
Absolutely.
for their noble causes.
Noble, super noble causes. And you got to understand that when the hero does it, feeding people to dogs is not that evil.
Right. I mean, look, sometimes dogs are hungry and you got to make do with what you have.
Exactly. So on that wonderful note, we're going to close the show. Unless you have any final thoughts?
Um,
No. Okay.
I do, but they're not really valid here. It's not the point. This isn't another time for me to say why I hate Wonder Woman for that sense of moral clarity that it shouldn't have in World War One, which was a war between dipshit colonialists. Anyways, so movies.
You're not allowed to pick war themes anymore.
I'm really not. We can't do it.
No. All right. On that note, you can find me on Twitter at TheZaneSimon. You can find Troy on Twitter at PDLMMA. You can find our show over on SoundCloud, Action Reaction on SoundCloud, and Action Reaction over on YouTube as well. Give us a like, a favorite, a whatever, and subscribe to our stuff. Download it, listen to it, all that good stuff. Send us any feedback you want on Twitter, in the comments, wherever, and we will read it. We will respond to it. We will be around. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will be back in just a few days with a reaction episode.
Bye, everybody.